Today, I am just going to show you or to still explain, we are still on the part of introduction. First, this was what I used in the last class. I talked about application, DBMS, and database. And I gave an illustration of something similar to the body, the soul, and the spirit. Are you with me, sir? Okay. Now, if you look at this, you're looking at your laptop screen right now, and then you are interfacing with it. Now, it is a completely different realm entirely, just like ours. You as a human being, you have you are having your logical person inside the system as a user. And now you are going to connect to the database using an application, which I showed you in my last class, like the Oracle developer. We use that Oracle developer to connect to the database through the database management system. If you look at this, I'm just trying to illustrate you with the concept of a country. So you have a country, you have state, we have local government. And within this local government, we have companies, we have courts, we have schools. We have so many things, right? Are you with me? Okay. Now, you look at a country and you liken it to a database. Then in this database, there's what we call schema. Now, that is what you have as the HR schema and the Scott schema, which you are seeing. This HR schema that you are looking at, and then the Scott schema, that is like a state in a country. So the database is like a country. And then the HR schema, there are many schemas, meaning there are many states. But when I did the installation, I activated two schemas. So saying I created two states. So HR schema and Scott schema. Like we have the local government in the state. So also we have object in the schema. Example of this object are tables, constraint. We are going to look at them. Triggers. Now, what does a table do? The table is referred to as entity. Now, in this table, we have rows and columns, which you see in your Excel, for example. The HR schema, you can see this HR schema. Now, when I now open this HR schema, you are going to see like this employee table. Now, look at, this is an employee table that is in the schema, in that HR schema. This table has rows and columns. Example of the columns are the employee ID, first name, last name, email, phone number, hire date. And then you have the rows like row 1 up to 17 that you are seeing, right? You are with me? Now, what is happening is that in the physical world where we are as human beings, we work, for example, we work in a company. And this company, they need information to be able to take decision. These informations are actually obtained from data. And these data are input into the database. They are stored in database. So they collect this data from people. I gave you an example of the bank in our last class. You go to the bank will have to give you a form to fill. You fill that form, and then they input it using an application. When they click on save, it is saved into the database as tables, as a row in for just one for one customer. It is saved as a row in a table. So assuming that this is a company and you want a table that has to do with all the employees, that is what this employee table is for. Now each row is representing an employee in the company. Are you with me, sir? So our work now, our goal now is to learn the language in which all these objects are using to communicate with themselves. So this one of these table, which is like this employee table, is an entity. And this entity has what we call attribute. That attribute is what you are seeing as these columns, like employee ID, first name, last name. Now, we have another table here, which is the department. So you are dealing with employees, you are dealing with department, which department do they belong, the job history, jobs, location, regions, and countries. These are different tables. Now, these tables are related to one another. That is why they call it relational database, meaning these tables are related to one another. So I can have information in one table, I can have data in one table and data in another table, and I will collate these data from these different tables together to give me information that I need. Are you with me, sir? Amonigo, are you there? Okay, so just picture it like the same way we have our physical world. You have families living in a house, in a community, and this community in a local government, and the local government in a state, and the state in the country, even the country in continent, and then the continent in the whole world that you are looking at. This physical world is also now logically created in the system. Now, the same way we are using this English to communicate, I am an entity trying to relate with you using a language. That is exactly how you are going to relate with this computer. What I showed you in this picture, which is this one you are looking at, the app, the DBMS, and the database, this three dimension is exactly how you and I we are communicating now. You are in a different location, I am in a different location. But there is something between both of us, which is what? The technology that is involved. So through the technology, you can see me and I can see you, even though you don't know where my physical location is. And I don't know where your physical location is. But through the aid of the technology, I can see you and you can see me. That is the concept of the body, the soul, and the spirit. Your physical body is here, your spirit is somewhere, and then you have your soul that interacts with the two of them. That is the same logic that is used in this database concept. So there is the database, there is the DBMS, and then there is the application. Now, this data that you are going to pull from the database, they are existing in different forms in these three regions. The data is existing in a particular form in the database. It is existing in another form in the database management system. And then it is existing in another form when it is presented to the application. So, having understood this clearly, we now want to learn the language that we are going to use in interacting with these three different realms. The language that the objects are going to use to interact with one another in these three different realms. That is what you call SQL language. Now, when you look at this, what you are looking at, we are using the SQL developer to connect to the database to pull out data. But this is how the data is presented now to the SQL developer, which is an application. This table that you are seeing, which is employee, if I'm to show you how it is existing in the database management system, this is how you are going to see it. This is how you are going to see it. Can you see it? This is the script that was written to create that table that is housing those data. Can you see it? Yeah. So, but you are not concerned with this. But this is the same language that we are about to learn. So it is what is used to create the table. And then when you look at this, now the table has been created and data are inside the table. That's what you are looking at now. But how this table employee was created is what I just showed you now. Now, when you click on this column, this is showing you all the columns that you have in the table. the employee ID, the first name, last name, email, phone number, hire date, job ID, salary, commission, manager ID, department ID. That is what you saw as the column, the heading that you are looking at, this column. Now, that is what I just showed you. Now, what is this data type? The data type is telling you what are the things, what kind of data can a particular column contain. When you are creating this table, you must tell the system that if something is going to come into this place, this is the data that should come here. Should it be a number, or should it be character, or should it be date? Those are the data types that should come into each of the columns. So you have to define it. Now, when you look at these tables, we have country, we have department, we have employees, we have job history, jobs, location, and then region. There has to be a form of relationship that exists between them. When you have two tables, there is a way these two tables are going to relate with each other. And how would they relate? For example, this employee table that you are looking at, how does it relate with this department table? If you look at these columns, you will see the employee ID, you will see the first name, you will see the last name, email, phone number, hire date, job ID, salary, commission percentage, manager ID. There is a last column here which is called department ID. Can you see the way it is named? Department underscore ID. Are you with me? Now, if I click on this department table, now look at this department table. Can you see that same column, that last column in the employee table? Can you see that column in this department table called department ID, the same name, department underscore ID? Can you see it? You are seeing it. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to click the employee table again. I click on it. You see, there is one column that is called department ID in the employee table. Then when I click on the department, you will see that there is another column called the same department ID with the same name. Now, what you are seeing here is the relationship between the employee table and the department table. So, in the employee table, that column is called the foreign key. So, when you see it, when you read it in the manual, this column is called the foreign key. While in the department table, that same name column in the department table is called the primary key. But if you look at it again, it's not the only one. There's another column again that is common between the two. That is the manager ID. The manager ID is also common. If you look at the employee, so there is manager ID in the employee table, and then there's also manager ID in the department table. But leave that one. Let's concentrate on the department ID. Now, in this department table, this department ID is known as a primary key. Primary key. How do I know that? If you click this column, can you see when I click on this tab columns, look at it. Primary key is just one. And which one is that? The department ID. Can you see it? So, and the comment here is primary key columns of department table. That is the name. Now, when I click on the employee table, look at the employee table. In the employee table, the department ID is said the department ID where employee works, foreign key to department ID of the column of the department table. So in this employee table, the department ID is known as a foreign key. Foreign key. That is, it is the column that is enabling me to relate with the department table. But in the department table, it is known as a primary key. And what does this primary key actually do? It helps to identify each row. Is somebody eating there? Your plate is disturbing us now. You are doing prok, prok, prok. Now, but are you with me? Can I continue?